The great chamber of the Galactic Council was filled with light and sound. Hundreds of alien leaders from many worlds sat in a circle, their voices echoing against the tall, crystal walls. They had gathered to discuss a small but troublesome species from a blue planet near the edge of the spiral arm. The species called themselves humans. To the Council, humans were weak. They had no vast fleets like the Krell. They had no long memory of empires like the Sorath. They had no claws, no venom, no wings, and no natural armor. Their bodies were soft, fragile, and easily broken. Yet humans stood before the Council that day with eyes that did not bend. The human envoy spoke in a calm, steady voice. He was not tall compared to the towering alien figures around him, but he did not shake. He did not bow. His words carried through the chamber like a slow storm. You may burn our colonies. You may break our fleets. You may take our lives, he said, his tone sharp as iron. But we will not stop. We will hunt you forever. We will chase you across stars. We will not rest until the last of you is gone. For a moment there was silence. The Council listened, and then the sound of laughter filled the chamber. The voices of alien leaders rolled over each other like crashing waves. Some slapped their clawed hands on the table. Others hissed with joy. A few nearly fell from their seats, unable to hold their amusement. To them, the threat was absurd. How could a young, fragile race like humanity dare to promise such endless vengeance? The Krell warlord leaned forward, his scaled mouth curled in a grin. Humans think themselves hunters? They are prey, soft prey. The Sorath elder lifted her many eyes, her voice full of contempt. They have not seen real war. They fight with fire and steel, while we command suns. The laughter grew louder. The chamber shook with it. The human envoy stood still. He did not smile. He did not blink. He turned, walked slowly from the chamber, and spoke no more. His shadow fell across the shining floor as the Council mocked his words. But shadows can grow. In the weeks that followed, the Council forgot his warning. Their attention turned to larger matters: trade routes, border disputes, expansions into rich star clusters. Humanity, in their eyes, was only a side note in history, something to be erased quickly and without effort. Still, whispers traveled through the corridors of the Council. Reports arrived of strange behavior in human fleets. Ships destroyed yet replaced with speed. Soldiers lost yet others rose in their place. No one seemed to understand how a small planet could fight so fiercely. The Council ignored these reports. Numbers, they said, would decide the war. And humans had too few numbers. The first strikes were swift. Alien fleets burned human colonies, their great weapons blotting out the skies. Cities crumbled, oceans boiled, and whole worlds were left in ruins. The Council laughed again, proud of their easy victories. Yet even in their triumph, something unusual was seen. On ruined planets, survivors did not surrender. They fought with stone, with knives, with fire pulled from the wreckage. On broken ships drifting in space, humans kept fighting until the very last breath. Alien commanders began to notice that battles against humans did not end when the fleet was destroyed. They ended only when every human was dead. The Council called this stubbornness foolishness. But those who faced humans in the field gave it another name. They called it endurance. As the war spread, the Council grew overconfident. They sent fleets deeper into human territory. They expected fear. They expected surrender. What they did not expect was silence. Some fleets never returned. Others returned broken, their captains speaking of ambushes in dark space, of human ships that attacked without warning, vanished, and then returned again. The Council dismissed these tales as excuses for poor command. But in quiet corners of the galaxy, commanders began to whisper, "The humans hunt us." In one distant system, a lone alien warship recorded a strange sight. Far from any planet in the black sea of stars, a human vessel drifted without light. Its engines were quiet, its weapons hidden. Yet it followed the warship for days, always just far enough to stay unseen. When the warship turned, the human ship turned. When the warship fled, the human ship chased. The alien crew grew restless. They could not sleep. They could not eat. They looked into the dark and felt eyes watching them. And when they finally made their jump into safe space, the human ship did not follow. It simply vanished into the void. But the fear remained. The council still laughed, but their laughter was thinner now, and somewhere in the cold dark between stars, the warning of the human envoy began to echo louder. "We will hunt you forever." The galaxy had mocked the words. They had called them empty, but already the hunt had begun. The Galactic Council did not fear. They had seen wars rise and fall for thousands of years. To them, humanity was nothing more than a short-lived spark, a flame that would burn out when the winds of power grew strong. After the first wave of victories, the Council celebrated. Alien warlords raised their banners high. Fleets returned home, with captured ruins of human colonies as trophies. In the vast halls of their empires, songs of triumph were sung. They spoke of humanity as if it were already gone. "They will break before the next cycle," said a Krell commander, his scales gleaming under the council lights. "Their fleets are scattered. Their planets are ash. They have nothing left but empty words." A Sorath elder nodded, her many eyes flashing. "Humans are fragile. They cannot endure long wars. They will vanish like dust in solar winds." The chamber echoed with agreement. The council dismissed humanity as a fading species. They believed the hunt was over before it had even begun, but out in the stars, something else was happening. The human survivors did not rest. Families who had lost their homes boarded ships and joined the fleets. Farmers became fighters. Scientists became engineers of war. Children who had seen their worlds burn carried stories that hardened the hearts of soldiers. Humanity did not collapse. Instead, it grew sharper, stronger, more determined. Reports reached the council, but they brushed them aside. A destroyed alien convoy here, a missing scout fleet there. Minor, they said. Mistakes, they claimed. No reason to fear. Yet the stories began to grow stranger. An alien transport carrying weapons across a quiet system was found drifting. Its crew was gone, not killed, not burned, but vanished. The ship logs told of shadows moving through the halls, whispers in the dark, human voices where no humans should be. The council called it madness. Another fleet reported being harassed by small human ships. They did not fight in lines. They did not obey the rules of war known across the galaxy. Instead, they attacked like wolves. A single ship would strike, vanish, and then return again from another angle. Sometimes they did not even destroy the enemy. They only damaged, harassed, and exhausted them until fear spread like disease. Alien commanders complained. "This is not war. This is hunting," the council laughed. "Then crush the hunters," they said. But it was not so simple. Humans did not stop. No matter how many worlds burned, more rose to fight. No matter how many ships were lost, others appeared from hidden docks. It was as if the stars themselves gave birth to human fleets. The Krell grew impatient. They launched a great campaign, sending hundreds of ships into the heart of human territory. At first, the skies burned bright with their victory. Human fleets scattered before them. Colonies fell. The council prepared to declare final triumph. Then silence. Weeks passed. The mighty Krell fleet did not return. No signal, no report. Only fragments of ships drifting in empty space, their hulls torn open, their weapons stripped. Survivors who were found spoke with broken voices. "They never stopped coming," whispered one. His scales were cracked, his eyes wide with terror. "Even when we destroyed them, they returned. Even when we killed them, they rose again. They hunted us. They hunted us until nothing was left." The council ignored the warning. "Exaggeration," they said. "Fear has poisoned their minds." But in the shadows of the galaxy, commanders began to doubt. They had seen the humans. They had seen how they bled and yet stood again. They had seen their eyes, cold, unbroken, unending, and still the council dismissed them. At a grand meeting, the Sorath elder lifted her voice once more. "Humans are not strong. They are desperate. Desperation cannot win a war." Yet a single voice rose from the back of the chamber, low and unsteady. It was the voice of an alien general who had faced humans in battle. His body was scarred, his armor broken. He leaned forward, his eyes shadowed with memory. "You do not understand," he said. "They fight even when there is no hope. They fight even when defeat is certain. They fight as if war itself is their breath. You cannot break them, because they do not accept breaking." The chamber fell silent for a moment. Then, as before, laughter drowned the warning. The council would not listen. They believed numbers would decide all. They believed time would wash humanity away. They believed the hunt was already finished. But out in the void, the hunt was only beginning. In the black corridors of space, human ships moved without light. On broken planets, survivors carved weapons from ruins. Across burned colonies, voices rose in one vow, the same vow spoken by their envoy before the council. "We will hunt you forever." The galaxy had dismissed the words as empty. But every new raid, every lost fleet, every whisper of fear proved otherwise. Humanity was no longer defending. Humanity was becoming the predator. And the council, in their pride, still did not see it. Not yet. The war spread like fire across the stars. At first, the Galactic Council believed their victory was certain. They had more ships, more soldiers, more weapons than humanity could ever build. In their pride, they thought numbers were enough. But numbers alone could not crush the will of a species that refused to die. Each cycle brought stranger reports from the front lines. A fleet of 30 alien warships had cornered a small group of human vessels near the dead moon of Drathis. The battle should have lasted minutes. Instead, it stretched for days. The humans did not retreat. They did not surrender. They fought until the last ship was gone. When the alien commander returned, he did not speak of triumph. He spoke of shadows, of human voices on open channels whispering, "We will find you." Again and again, even as their ships burned, other fleets carried scars not only on their hulls but in their minds. Captains who once mocked humanity now sat in silence, their eyes hollow. Soldiers spoke of nightmares where human faces stared at them through fire and smoke. A strange unease began to grow in alien ranks. Still, the council tried to laugh. "Fear makes fools of us all," they said. But in the lower decks of alien ships, whispers spread. The humans were not like other enemies. They did not fade when beaten. They returned. Always, a commander of the Sorath Empire described his terror in secret. He had faced humans on a burning colony world. His forces outnumbered them 10 to 1. Yet every time a soldier fell, another human stepped forward. They fought with broken weapons, with bare hands, even with teeth. When the battle ended, he stood on the ashes of victory, but he could not forget their eyes. "They fight as if death is not the end," he whispered. Fear crept into the edges of the galaxy like a slow storm. Convoys began to move under heavier guard. Fleets doubled their patrols. Alien captains refused to sleep without guards at their doors. The laughter of the council was still loud, but it no longer reached the darkest corners of their empires. On the human side, silence reigned. They did not boast. They did not send threats. They simply fought again and again. With every defeat, they grew harder. With every loss, they grew sharper. And with every world that burned, their vow echoed louder. "We will hunt you forever." Alien fleets began to notice strange patterns. No matter how many humans they killed, others rose in their place. Colonies destroyed were rebuilt in secret. Ships destroyed were replaced by new ones forged in hidden docks. It was as if the humans drew strength not from victory, but from suffering itself. The Krell warlords grew uneasy. They were a proud race of hunters, but even hunters knew the terror of prey that refused to die. In council chambers, some whispered that perhaps the humans were not prey at all. Perhaps they were something else. The council silenced these voices. Pride blinded them. They claimed fear was weakness, that humans were only desperate creatures fighting their last war. But in the dark of their ships, away from the shining halls of power, alien generals asked themselves a question they dared not say aloud. What if the hunt is turning? On the outer edges of council space, a fleet of 50 alien ships vanished. No distress call. No survivors. Only fragments drifting in the void. Among the wreckage, one recording was found. A single message repeated again and again, carried on an open channel. "We are coming." The council called it a trick, a fabrication. But commanders who had seen the humans knew better. One alien admiral stood before the council with trembling hands. He had lost half his fleet to humans who fought with a madness he could not understand. His words broke in the chamber. "They do not fight for victory," he said. "They fight for the hunt itself. Every battle makes them stronger. Every loss sharpens their claws. If we cannot end them now, then we will never end them." The council turned their eyes away. They refused to believe. But the fear in his voice could not be ignored. Out in the black, alien soldiers began to look over their shoulders. They no longer mocked the humans. They no longer called them fragile. Instead, they watched the stars with unease, wondering from which shadow the hunters would appear next. For the humans had become silent in their vengeance. They no longer begged for peace. They no longer pleaded for survival. They moved like ghosts through space, striking when least expected, vanishing when pursued. The laughter that once filled the council chamber began to fade, and in its place, silence grew, for now the galaxy was beginning to understand. The humans were not prey, the humans were hunters, and the hunt had only just begun. The war had reached a strange balance. The Galactic Council still held more fleets, more weapons, and more resources than humanity could ever dream of. Yet for every human colony burned, another rose in secret. For every fleet destroyed, another appeared in the dark. It was as if humanity had learned to breathe war itself. Alien commanders began to notice a change. Humans no longer fought in desperate lines of defense. They no longer stood still and waited for the storm. Instead, they moved like shadows. They struck where they chose, and they vanished before the enemy could catch them. In one system, a convoy of alien warships found itself lured into an asteroid field. Human vessels, small and fast, weaved through the rocks with perfect precision. The aliens fired blindly, their weapons shattering stone, but the humans were always just beyond their reach. Then the asteroids themselves came alive, mines hidden in the rocks, charges placed long before. The field erupted in fire. The convoy was gone. For the first time, alien leaders began to whisper the word that had always belonged to them: fear. The humans had learned something new. They had learned to turn the galaxy itself into their weapon. Empty systems became traps. Dead worlds became fortresses. Even silence became a blade, for alien fleets that wandered into human territory often heard nothing until it was too late. The Council still tried to dismiss the reports. They claimed humans could not last forever, but the soldiers who faced them knew otherwise. They had seen the strange strength that grew in humans after every loss. A world destroyed did not end them, it fueled them. A fleet crushed did not break them, it hardened them. Soon, human strategy began to show patterns. They struck supply lines first. Alien fleets, starved of fuel and food, found themselves stranded. They targeted communication hubs, leaving whole sectors blind and cut off. They attacked not the strongest fleets, but the weakest links, and from those broken links spread chaos that reached even the core of alien empires. The Krell warlords grew furious. They sent their largest fleet into human space to crush the rebellion once and for all. 300 ships armed with the greatest weapons of their kind. It was more than enough, they thought, to erase humanity. But when they reached the stars of the Andrin sector, they found nothing. No human ships, no colonies, only silence. They searched for weeks, splitting into groups to cover more ground. Then the trap closed. One by one, the scattered fleets vanished. Human ships appeared from hidden fields, from behind dark moons, from the shadows of nebulae. Small ships, yes, but fast and coordinated. They struck without warning, cutting down groups of 5, 10, 20 alien ships before fading back into the dark. The great Krell fleet, once a mountain of power, returned home broken into fragments. The council sat in silence when they heard the news. The laughter that once filled their chambers was gone. Pride still forced them to speak of strength, but doubt gnawed at their voices. For the first time, they asked themselves, what if the humans could not be broken? On human worlds, the story was different. Survivors gathered not in despair, but in unity. Colonies worked together, sharing what little they had to fuel the war. Scientists built weapons from scrap and ruins. Soldiers trained children in the art of survival. Humanity was no longer a scattered race fighting for breath. Humanity had become a storm, and at the center of that storm was one idea, one vow repeated across every ship, every station, every ruined city: we will hunt you forever. The alien fleets that once roared into human space with laughter now entered with fear. Their captains looked over their shoulders, wondering from which shadow the hunters would appear. Some began to refuse orders. Some deserted, and some spoke openly of surrender. The council tried to silence them, but silence could not erase what every soldier now knew. The humans were no longer prey. They had become predators. A Sorath general, proud and unbending, once claimed that humans lacked the endurance for endless war. He was proven wrong when his fleet, after months of chasing shadows, found itself surrounded by human ships in the dark void. They fought, but the humans did not stop. Even when half their fleet was destroyed, the humans pressed forward. The Sorath general's last words, before his ship was torn apart, were whispered into the void. They are the hunters now. The war that began as conquest had turned into something else. The galaxy had tried to erase humanity, but in doing so, it had awoken something relentless, something primal, something unstoppable. And though the council still sat in their crystal halls, pretending to hold power, the truth had already spread across the stars. The balance had shifted, the hunt had truly begun. The Galactic Council chamber was not filled with laughter anymore. The crystal walls that once echoed with mockery now carried only silence. Alien leaders sat in heavy silence, their eyes lowered, their voices gone. Reports lay stacked before them. Fleets destroyed, convoys vanished, colonies lost. Numbers once used as weapons now betrayed them. The balance of power, which had seemed so secure, was breaking, and the same words appeared again and again in the reports. The humans are hunting us. One Krell warlord slammed his fist against the table, his scales rattling. We are stronger. We have more ships. We cannot fall to a species of fragile prey. But even he did not believe his own words. His fleet had seen the humans. He had seen how they fought after their worlds were burned, how they rose again from ruin. His voice was full of pride, but his eyes carried fear. The Sorath elder, her many eyes dim, whispered the truth. We did not understand them. We thought war was a game of numbers. For them, war is breath. War is survival. War is memory. The chamber grew colder with her words. Outside, across the galaxy, the change was clear. Alien fleets no longer entered human space with boldness. They crept, they hid, they feared shadows. Every mission was haunted by the thought that human ships were waiting, silent and patient in the dark, and often they were. A convoy moving through the Naran sector was ambushed not once, but 3 times. Human ships attacked, vanished, and returned again, leaving no rest. The convoy's survivors begged to retreat, but retreat was no safety. Human raiders followed them home, striking their bases, burning their supplies. The aliens began to understand the meaning of the human envoy's vow. It was not a boast. It was not desperation. It was a promise. We will hunt you forever. The council replayed the memory of those words again and again. Once they had laughed. Now the memory was a shadow that sat heavy on their chests. Some voices within the council called for peace. They argued that humanity might stop if offered safety. But no one believed it. Too much blood had been spilled. Too many worlds had burned. Humanity's eyes no longer looked for peace. They looked only for the hunt. On a ruined alien colony, a lone survivor recorded what he had seen before the humans left. He had expected slaughter, but the humans had not killed all. They left behind only one, wounded and broken, with a message carved into the walls of stone. Run if you wish. We will follow. The survivor's voice shook as he repeated the words, his claws trembling. They are not fighting for victory. They are fighting so we can never rest. The council, in their arrogance, had believed they controlled the war. Now they understood they were only prey running in circles while the hunters closed in. The fear spread deeper than the council could control. Alien soldiers refused to board ships heading into human space. Some commanders abandoned their posts. Even among civilians, whispers grew. What if the humans never stop? What if they follow us to every world, every star, every place we flee? And the whispers were true. In the silence between stars, human fleets expanded farther. They did not rest after victory. They did not celebrate. They pressed on, always forward. When alien scouts fled to distant systems, humans followed. When fleets scattered, humans pursued. When colonies hid, humans found them. The hunt was endless. At last, the council admitted the truth in their private chamber. They spoke in low voices, afraid even of their own words. We thought them fragile. We thought them weak. We thought their lives too short to endure. They lowered their eyes. Their pride shattered. We were wrong. One elder stood, her voice trembling as she faced the others. We thought ourselves hunters, but we have created something greater. Humanity is the predator of predators, and we have nowhere to run. The chamber was silent. No one laughed. No one mocked. The truth lay heavy on every mind. Far beyond, in the cold dark, a single human ship drifted, its lights dim, its engines quiet. To passing eyes it looked dead, abandoned. But its weapons were ready, its crew was awake, and on every lip one vow remained. We will hunt you forever. The galaxy had mocked the warning. The council had dismissed it. But now they understood. It was too late, for the hunt never ends.